Find yourself a booth, order up a cold one. This is the Spring Bar.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Spring Bar. Happy New Year. Glad to have you here. I am Florida Mike. Today, we are starting off right. We are getting into a humdinger of a conversation. This is a topic that sparked great debate amongst Joe and I and another one of our good buddies. I'm talking it's probably, well, it's going to be, a week or so old by the time you guys listen to this. But it's one of the latest Robb reports on the 50 greatest watches of all time. We're going to get into that. And I'm also, because I promised it, I'm going to talk about my Mil-Ships thoughts. Is it a yay or nay from me? As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Joe Niosi. Joey, how you doing there?
I'm good. Oh damn.
Oh, cameo appearance.
I've been joined by Merlin. Hi Kitty.
I
I'm not
think
sure what's going on here.
you're merely a bridge to whatever
I
goes
might
on
be.
right now.
I'm not certain what's happening here.
For those of you not watching, Joel, his cat is sitting on his head at the moment.
I'm getting close to it. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Go
Yeah.
where you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All righty.
I'm merely a means to an end.
Yeah.
Get up there. All right. Yes, it's after the holidays and all of that is kicking in. We're recording actually right before New Year's, so this will be going out after the first of the year. So we have some.
You're not supposed to tell the audience that. They're supposed to think that this is the new year. It's the cinematic magic. You ruined it for everyone.
Whatever. Whatever. You got anything new?
No, I have. Okay, so I have something coming. I can't talk about it as per the rules. It's not in hand, but the yellow Yama yachting graph is gone.
Gone. It's moved
It
on.
is I offered it up on Instagram. I was kind of a little harsh about it.
No takers.
I said retails for $369, offered $300 plus shipping. You either want it or you don't. Take it or leave it. No offers.
Yeah.
And I got somebody that messaged me and says, how do you feel about trades? I'm like, oh, okay. Let's see what you have to say. But I got what I got. I'm very happy with it. I will give a little bit of hint and say that it is a watch that on numerous occasions I have become very, very close to pulling the trigger on, but never really quite did. So now I get to experience it without any more cash out of pocket. So,
all right.
So we'll get into that. It'll be next episode that I'll have that one, so we can talk about it and discuss that one a little bit more.
Okay.
You got anything new?
I do actually. I do have something new. I got a couple of things. So I have stuff that's back from repair.
Oh, you got stuff that came back. That's right.
Stuff that came back. So we'll start with this guy.
Yeah,
and
that is one of my favorites.
Question of the name. I'm not sure what we're going to call that. Our mystery collector seems to think it's called the Big Block. It's the 774 case.
Just call it the Bulova snorkel. That's always
a snorkel. It's a 666 snorkel. The 774 case. So if you check out the area code, like that's Cape Cod in Massachusetts. So
is this the Bulova Cape Cod?
I don't know. Cape Cod is 2 syllables, though, so it doesn't quite work. I mean, there's the Worcester.
Well, so is the Devil Diver. That's also 2 syllables.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Anyway, that came back, and it's fantastic. It wears really, really well. It photographs great. I love it on this real simple steel bracelet. That was absolutely worthwhile.
So, question: put that back down again. Got a question for you. You had the loom on that redone.
No, I had
redone.
The pip done. The pip was redone, but the rest of it, no.
Also, the loom on the dial, that's as it came.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, potentially it had been redone, but it's hard to say.
Gotcha. Okay.
I haven't tried it with my black light, so it may glow, it may not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Carry on. Proceed.
All right. Going on. Moving on. There's that.
Oh yeah, this is the project you've been talking about for quite some time.
Yeah, and it's still a project. It's still ongoing. So it's the wrong case, right? This needs a day date movement case, and this is a date only
Okay,
case.
so again, for those that aren't watching, that are just listening, because we do have people who just listen. This is, if you remember, going back probably what, a year and
Years,
a half. This
easy
is the Oceanographer V, the orange dial V that Joe had taped up to his UV grow light
for a year.
for a year to turn
Yeah.
the dial white because you have so desperately wanted a white dial devil diver. So you decide to make your own.
Well,
So you turn,
okay. So all right. The dial I had was damaged, and I have a new old stock dial in my current version. So it's like, all right, might as well. I'm not doing anything with it. It's a damaged
so
dial. Nobody's going
it's
to
not
buy it.
like you destroyed a good dial. This
Right.
one did have some issues to it.
Right. And so I just taped it up there to see what would happen
Yeah.
because maybe it would take care of the discoloration that's on the dial. And as you can see, and it's kind of right up there at like 230, you can
Yeah.
see that it did not touch that discoloration at all. And so my white dial has an orange spot on it, but at least then you know where it came from. So I've got it in the right shape case. I've got a
Hmm.
bezel it's a steel bezel that works with the case, but it doesn't quite work. It's it's as a mock-up. This is a
So
mock-up of what we're eventually going to run into.
that bezel, is that off of one of those citation
Yeah,
electronic
it's off of one of the
watches that,
citation electronics. Yeah.
so the citation electronic is essentially the same thing as the Oceanographer G. Same
Yes.
same style case and everything. So that pretty much just swapped right into place.
Except that the crystal doesn't. It's not an even swap for the crystals. So the
Yeah.
citation had a different style crystal, so the bezel was a different shape. So this had to have some finagling so it would fit. But even still, it's also just a placeholder because
And yeah, because
the goal is to get a thrashed bezel and
and have one of
have one made.
the actual white bezel inserts made,
Uh-huh. Yeah, do
which
something
I
along
think
those lines.
is definitely the look you want to go for. This is steel. It blends
Uh-huh.
in. It works.
It's not right.
But again, like you were saying before, the problem you're facing is this is a 714 case that you're using, and you
Right.
need a different case altogether.
Yeah. 7095 is what I need.
Because as we've found, hashtag Bulova,
Hashtag Bulova.
it, the cases, while on the outside, appear to be the same. It's all the little details that, the
Uh-huh.
different height movements, they use different movement holders, different depths.
Yeah.
The oceanographer, if there's so many different case variations in that the crystal, not the crystal, but the crown heights are in different
Yeah.
positions. And this case
It's a
went through
mess.
so many iterations. Yeah.
It's a
So
mess. It's a mess. So
you
this
need the
it,
rarest case of them all.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. So this one doesn't run. It's gonna be a minute or two before we got it.
Well,
But
it runs. You had
the
it
movement
serviced.
the movement works. It just doesn't work in this current setting, and the hands are a mess. And
I
so we're gonna have
just
to take out the handset too.
let it be known. The movement, courtesy of moi.
It's true. It's true.
I
You
so
did
I
provide.
feel connected to this project.
You should. It's gonna be a thing. So there's that. And then
Well, you
one
get
more.
more.
I got one more. Got one more.
It's like Christmas Day all over again. Unwrapping
So
stuff.
speaking of which, I got this one for Christmas.
How did you know?
It showed up in a random package that came from my mother, who loves me. And this is
What in the world is that?
I've got no real clue. It is a $50 tail
I,
side
I can see that.
quartz in need of a battery. And there's absolutely no markings on it whatsoever. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who did it. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know if it runs. But
So,
but
okay.
there it
A
is.
funny story about moms and Christmas gifts. My mother, thankfully, had not sent me a Christmas gift this year
Uh,
because typically what happens is my brother and I will generally get the same gift for my mother, whatever that may be. I have no idea why. I have no clue where this came from. My brother got a 5-foot didgeridoo for Christmas.
Okay.
So thankfully, I did not get one.
No didgeridoo for you.
No didgeridoo. I didgeridoo didn't.
Be a nice addition to your bar.
Well, it would be something.
Use it as a beer funnel. Okay.
Yeah. So that the $50 tailside watch, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
So
What's on your wrist? What's in your glass?
Well, today is the chronograph D.
Oh, the Chrono D. Yep.
And in the glass,
Is it in the glass yet?
no.
It's going to be in the glass.
I can get it open.
Oh,
High quality
pop.
screw top.
Mm-hmm.
Andre champagne.
Look at that.
Sparkling wine.
California sparkling wine. While you're pouring that, I am wearing, thank you for asking, Joe. I am wearing something that I haven't worn in quite some time. This is my Caravel Digitron. This is the ladies version, so it's a little smaller. This doesn't have the
What's the size of that
disc?
35?
No, smaller than that.
Is it?
I want to say it's like maybe 28, 29 by 35. It's pretty small. Maybe it's a little bit. Maybe it's 30. Maybe it's 30, 31. I have to measure it.
Bigger than that.
Well, look at. I'll put it on my wrist here, and then you can see. You can judge from there.
I'd 30s, maybe.
Yeah.
Is it a citizen movement or is it a German movement?
This is West German. So, what is that? PUW?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Runs great. Keeps excellent time. So I've never had to open it, send it off, or anything yet. So.
Yeah, those are really neat too.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Drinking some Grand Marnier because I'm drinking on an empty stomach because we're recording at a really weird time and I haven't had dinner yet. I also have my bar nuts. So if you see me eating, that's why. Same thing with Joe. Joe's got his bar nuts too. And he don't care if you see him eating. Joe don't care.
Joe don't care.
No.
So,
yeah.
Robb Report.
Nope.
Oh, no. Never mind. Mil-Ships.
Yeah. There you go.
I can follow.
I've had the Mil-Ships for what, a week and a half-ish?
Sure.
Something like that. I'm going to make this quick. Here's my thoughts on it. Fantastic watch. I love it. Would I buy one? Right now, at this point in time, I'm going to have to say no. And there's one good reason why. Because I know some of the watches that are coming out for the Bulova 150th anniversary, and I want those watches more than I want the Mil-Ships.
Are you thinking of something more marine-esque, or are you thinking of something more snorkel-esque? Or both?
There are, yeah, I'm going to say both.
Okay.
There's 3 watches that I know that are coming out next year as part of the some are anniversary celebration, some are just new things that they're releasing. Of all the watches that I want, all 3 have to do with water, but I want these watches far more than I want the Mil-Ships. That said, if this stuff wasn't happening and there really wasn't anything on the horizon that I knew was coming out that I really wanted, I would probably absolutely, because right now you can find a Mil-Ships for around 400, 450, brand new.
Yeah.
I would absolutely buy one at that price for sure. It's a great watch. I think, and somebody had said, when you talk about it, talk about some of the quirks, because I find some of these quirky things on these watches, and I'm just curious what your thoughts are. The number one thing everybody comments on is the 16 millimeter lug width.
Yep.
I think it's super fantastic that they kept that lug size, because they very easily could have modernized it and made it a 18 or even a 20. And I think that would have thrown the whole thing off. So the fact that they kept that 16 is fantastic, and I love it for that. Um, the other thing that I thought would bother me the most is the handset, because
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
a big
really?
fan. I'm not a big fan of the cathedral hands,
Oh, I
and
love
I
those.
I, I think it's a very weird choice that they went with that style hands for a purpose-built dive watch. Now I get it that this is a watch that originated in the 50s, and that was kind of the style at the time. Um, but there were also other hand options too at that time. So I think it's weird they went with the cathedral style hands. However, it is something that I think the watch just needs to have. It's just weird enough that it makes it cool. And looking at it, it's not something that was distracting enough to make me dislike that.
So because it's my watch, and the issues, and I've heard people talk about it, and I know what the discussions are, and I've also had discussions from people that have had that watch and have had like the Tourniquet Ravel reissues and some of the other copies with the different lug widths and
Hmm.
all the things that go with it, and it throws off the proportions. You're absolutely right. Like 18
Yeah,
works, 20 doesn't. 20 doesn't work, not with that dial.
not with that. Yeah,
No, but the
you couldn't
other,
get away with an 18.
yeah, 18 does work. It's not great, but it does work. Um, but like the handset and the specs, all of that, because they're meeting the actual spec. I mean, I think that the spec called for a handset that was similar, if not identical, to that. So it's like, okay, and I understand that you could change it around and you could put on something that's a little bit more modern, and that would also work too. But for my money, and since that is my money, I mean, I bought that sucker at retail.
That's fair. Early
Yeah,
adopter.
yeah, yeah. I got that right when it came out. I
Yeah.
think it's fantastic. The only issue I've got with it was the strap it came on. And that two-piece black strap I think works great.
The two piece, I don't get the two piece NATO, and that's just me. I have tried that watch on in the store on the factory strap that it comes on.
That
That
rib
doesn't bother
one.
me. Yeah,
No,
and I don't mind that kind of bluish, dark blue
yeah,
kind of
it's not a
color.
bad color, but
Yeah,
it just didn't work for me. Now,
the black two piece, the black works, but that two piece thing just throws me off. That's the
okay,
only thing I don't like about that.
what if,
Mm,
what if,
mm.
what if that comes in bronze? Would you do it in bronze?
No, I'm not a bronze case person in any watch.
Okay,
I cannot get behind that bronze.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that's a potential down the road buy.
So
If
it's a
one were to
definite.
drop into your lap, you wouldn't send it away.
I wouldn't send it away. It's a definite yay for me. But again, there's some stuff coming that I really want to have before the mill ships. So, but it is fun. It is cool. It is the right size. It wears fantastic.
Yeah,
It's one of those where when I'm wearing it, I just catch myself looking at it just to
yeah.
look at it. It's just really, really cool.
Hard to take a good picture of too.
It's not easy. I mean, when you take a
Yeah,
picture, you're staring at yourself in the crystal.
it's a good watch though. I
Yeah,
like it. Okay,
yeah, it is. It is really cool. So, okay, now getting
now,
into the meat and potatoes of it. December 26th, the day after Christmas, the Robb Report for let me pull it up here real quick. The 50 greatest watches of all time. In fact, I'm gonna throw
yeah,
it up on screen here.
yeah.
All right, it should be coming up. 50 greatest watches of all time. And we put this in our group chat between you and I and Watches with Oliver.
Uh-huh.
And it was off to the races. There are watches on here that are good watches, and I do legitimately believe deserve to be on the list. There's a lot of repetition, and there's a lot of stuff that we all just kind of scratched our heads about.
Right. So the issue that shows up to me is they show off who their panel was. And so they gathered a group of people together to have this discussion, and I guess everybody got to vote because at the bottom of each entry it shows how many votes a particular watch got. And so they're
Yeah.
looking at stuff that got at least 2 votes or more in order to decide if it made it onto the
Is
list.
that what it is? Let's see. Number 50, you got how many votes?
2.
Oh, it did receive 2 votes. I thought 3 was the floor, but 2.
No,
apparently.
it wasn't. I was surprised with that too. But we're looking at, so you've got 7 journalists, including Jose Perez from Periscope. You've got 25 sellers, you've got 9 collectors, and then you've got 3 that fall into either executive designers or photographers. Adam Moore being one of the photographers.
I will just go ahead and say this, and the unpopular opinion is I believe this is a list of 50 watches that was the favorites of these people at a price point that nobody but them could probably afford, and has nothing to do with the importance of the watch on the watch industry. Okay. Number 2, Wind Vintage had some of the highest representation in this panel. I also tend to believe that of the anonymous people, you're going to find more Wind Vintage people in there. I feel like this was very Wind Vintage biased.
Well, that may be, but we know that Wind sells his own stuff. We know that he consigns a little bit as well, and he's also part of a contributing expert.
Number 3, the auction houses have representatives in here as well.
Quite a few.
I don't agree with auction house representatives talking about what should belong on the list of, in this case, 50 greatest watches, or any watch list for that matter, because their sole purpose is to sell an item for maximum profit,
right?
Regardless of opinion.
It is a very interesting advertising marketing exercise, right? Because this is going on Robb Report, which is talking about investment grade and investment quality options, and it's reaching out to the wealthy or the want to be wealthy. Mm-hmm. So when you go into the actual list and you look at the 50 greatest watches, Rolex has got 8. And we're talking, date, the GMT, sub, and then they separate out the Daytona and the Newman Daytonas. Mm-hmm. Those get 2 separate entries, even though that's still the Daytona. It's still the same watch, even with the Newmans being a specific dial reference. And then you get into Patek, and Patek has 13 separate entries.
There's so many of them.
8 of their entries are perpetual calendars.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let's discuss this for a second, because perpetual calendar, right? Perpetual calendar is considered to be one of the more desirable grand complications, mm-hmm. because you don't need to reset it. It takes leap year into consideration. Okay. That's nice. 8 different iterations of it, though. Seriously?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is this seems to just be a very skewed, very biased list, because I get that one should be on here, but we don't need 8. Pick of those 8 the best one, and let's leave it at that, because there's a lot of stuff that's not on this list that should be on this list. But before we get to that, there are some things that I think the biggest controversy of this list at the number 1 slot was the Speedmaster.
Okay.
And
so, hang on. Let's go through it a little bit before we get to that. Because
okay. All right.
So you can go through and you can either share the pictures, share the images that we've got of some of the watches that we're going to talk about, or
well, just tell me what number they are. We'll start at 50 and work our way down, because I've got the whole article up on screen here, so we can do it that way.
Okay, well, let's go with 48. Number 48 is the Daniels Millennium. And as in terms of an important watch, yeah, okay. I'll take that. I'll absolutely throw that up there. 44, you've got a minute repeater from Vacheron. And I don't disagree with that either. I think that's an excellent choice. And it's a lovely watch. There's a variety of okay, let's look at 41, which is the Vacheron Historiques Americain. That's a nice watch. Is it historic? I don't know. Is it one of the most important watches?
I don't agree with that choice either.
I don't think that works.
It belongs in one of the 50 greatest watches of all time.
Right.
It's a good watch, but there's better things out there.
Okay, go to 39. The Freak.
This deserves to be on the list.
Why?
The way that the movement was developed, integrated into the hour and minute hands. Basically, much of the movement is the rotating minute hand, and the movement base plate is the rotating hours hand.
Yeah, okay, but is that more important than, say, a 60-second tourbillon?
So,
of which I don't see any.
It's not a huge horological innovation, but the engineering involved to achieve what this watch does, I think, is above and beyond and fantastic. And I believe that this does deserve to have a place on this list.
See, here's my issue, because if we're going along that,
and this because we just scrolled to number 39, but we're talking the Ulysses Nardin Freak,
right?
For those that are
but
listening.
if we're talking about that kind of innovation, where it is a movement complication, a movement alteration, a movement innovation, there are others that I think are better. And so that to me becomes very interesting. It becomes a very interesting question of why that specific, and we're not talking about any particular freak. We're talking about the freak in general, not a specific reference. Okay. So with that in mind, go to number 37.
37. Okay. Yeah, this one I didn't get.
I don't get that either.
I don't get it either.
That to me, it falls into the exact same space as the freak. This is the Bianchi halter. What is it?
Antiqua.
Yeah. And so it's got the multiple dials. It's very steampunk looking.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't doubt that it is a tour de force of horology. I don't think that it isn't an important watch. But compare it to number 38.
Well, the weird thing about this watch is it is a perpetual calendar. However, you really have to study it in order to understand that about this watch. It is very weird. Does it make it a best of all time? I don't think so. It falls into the how many perpetual calendars do we really need on this list?
And also, when you get down into it, I think that Bianchi halter had a couple others that might have been better. Because when you go to the next, when you go to the next watch on the list, you go to number 38. Go up 38.
38.
38.
Okay.
Which is the
Philippe Dufour
Simplicity. It's like that. That's an outstanding watch by any stretch of the imagination. And to me,
you think?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%, because it put Philippe Dufour on the map. It's still incredibly valuable. It's incredibly desirable. It's a time only, very simple but very elegantly made watch. I'm a big fan. I'm a very big fan of that.
Didn't these have prices? I thought there was a price associated with these, but I guess not.
No, because it depends on which one. But then that one also, it plays exactly into number 30.
Man, you're making me jump here. Number 30.
Yeah.
Look at LeMay. Remember the Piaget's? Yeah.
And I think that's awful, because that's the new reissue and not one of the older versions, because the Genta design was just killer. Number 30.
I know. I think the El Primero.
Yeah.
I think that definitely deserves a spot. That was number 31. Number 30. I'm going to let you pronounce that one.
Rexepi contemporain. Chronometre contemporain.
Okay.
And go down to the next picture for that. because that watch is just stunning. The case is not symmetrical. It is slightly oval, and it's a handmade case by Hagman.
Is it, or is it just the angle of the photo?
No, they are not completely symmetrical, and it makes the proportions of that watch work so incredibly well. Those are exemplary watches. And I think that if we're looking at someone who is going to have a similar reputation as Patek moving forward, this puts him into a Dufour, this puts him into an FP Journe, this puts him into a Vianney Halter space. This guy is these, and you can't buy them. You have to know and be on the list and wait and count your blessings and deal with Krampus and all of the other things that go with it.
All right, moving down. So the FP Journe, yeah, you got a tourbillon here.
Yeah, and they're fantastic.
Yeah,
there's a few different Journes that are on the list.
28 Philippe Dufour Grand and Petite Sonneries.
I think
a Sonnerie deserves a spot. It's an offshoot of a minute repeater, but kind of serves a different purpose. So I think to have one on here is a good choice. Go down to what number?
Let's go to where the heck was it? 26.
26.
26.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Past some more Patek's perpetual calendars.
There. Seiko Astron.
Yes.
Talk about it.
The first quartz movement
right.
Available to market. This is the beginning of a revolution, right? In almost the downfall of mechanical watches. I think it is extremely important. It absolutely holds a place in history. And part of our argument was, I forget exactly what it was we were discussing, but you said, well, quartz watches are still a thing. They are still readily available, extremely popular today. And it all stems from this watch.
Yeah.
And there is a watch that is not on the list that I
we'll get
genuinely
to it.
believe deserves to be on it, which leads to the invention of the quartz watch.
We'll get to it. We'll get to that watch, and we'll discuss, because I've got a different opinion than you do, but that's fine.
But what's your opinion on this?
On that
watch?
watch?
We share the same? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 100%.
Absolutely.
That is the branch off of our main that takes us into current quartz. And without that, you lose some of the democratization of the watch industry, because the logical step from that watch to the Ronald McDonald watch in the Happy Meal. Well, and you can scoff and laugh at it as much as you want, but that got some people onto the watch pathway. And it was the simplest way to go about it. And sometimes it's the cheapest little thing, and it starts people down their watch journey. And it was a throwaway, but this led to that, which takes us into a variety of other places. Yeah. What do you want to talk about after this? Because we got the 50 fathoms. There's the Carrera. Go to 24. The
Carrera is good of a watch as it is. I don't know if it really deserves a spot on this list. So shout at me if you want.
No, I don't know that one.
Go on. The day date is on the list. What number is that? Do you know? Because I know you have the list probably more readily available than
that's number 15. This is number 24.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's about 10 away.
I 100% agree. And I am not a Rolex fanboy by any stretch. I 100% agree. The day date is one of the greatest watches of all time. Okay.
More so than the date, just where would you rank the two?
I don't know that I would put the date just on the list. I think the day date is in a pretty solid position at number 15. It deserves to be on the list, and
I
I
would
think
swap
it
them.
deserves to be high up.
I would swap them. I think that the date just is a more important watch
Really?
than the day date.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. After that, we've got, so there's the 50 fathoms, there's a Santos, there's a tank.
And those all, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't deny the Santos, you can't deny the tank.
Then you get
Oh,
past that.
here we
You
go.
go, hey, look,
21, another Protect Fleet perpetual calendar.
look at that. Go on.
Okay, so there's the tank.
Tank Century,
Just
right?
just
Which is
absolutely
not the tank normal.
not, yeah.
It's still not bad.
Protect Fleet World Timer.
Yeah. As one of the first examples of that, sure, okay. Not a
Mm,
GMT world timer. It's a different
yeah,
caliber. But yeah,
okay.
okay. I get that.
Well, okay. We spent enough time on that one.
Uh,
Oh, look at another perpetual calendar from Protect.
hey, keep going.
This one,
The resonance and yeah,
I do
it's up there.
I do like that one. This and the salmon dial, that's beautiful.
Yeah, they're gorgeous watches.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that and agree
Yeah.
with that one.
Okay, go on.
Um, Longa one,
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
maybe not
okay.
number 16, but I think it deserves a spot.
Okay.
Okay,
So
going
let's
down.
go past 15 because we talked about that already. Go
Okay.
number 14.
Oh, the Malachite dial. Oh, the Cartier crash. Yeah, that for sure. I think that one should be in the top
Yeah,
10, if I'm being honest.
you
Yeah.
think so?
Yep.
Why?
The Cartier crash is number 14. I think it's a top 10 watch.
I don't think so.
I think the controversy and the mystery behind the watch is it captivates so many people's imaginations. The crash is one of those watches. It's a love it or hate it. You either get it or you don't. And those that get it will agree that that's a top 10 watch. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, I don't get it, so it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I love that watch.
All right.
14.
Datograph.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay.
There's another Patek.
Another
Okay.
perpetual calendar.
Another one. Right. All right. There.
The GMT Master.
I can get behind that.
I can get behind it. And top 10, top 15.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah.
It's up there. I mean, when you
defines a category in terms of like GMTs.
For sure. When you talk GMT, this is what comes to mind.
Right.
And as much as you don't like it, the Pepsi version
it is the defining one. No, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. Like if you're going to buy a Rolex GMT as an investment, you're getting a Pepsi. Probably what a 1650, 1670, whatever the first iteration of it is.
Whatever the number was.
Yeah.
Does it talk about it in here? Probably not.
That's the one to get. Okay.
Yeah.
So next there's another Patek Philippe.
Yep. Another
Go to 9.
Number 9.
Go to 9.
For sure.
100%.
The Jaeger-LeCoultre reversal.
Yeah. The first sports watch.
And for sure a top 10.
Oh, without question.
And dare I say this should be a top 5 watch?
I think it's low. I think it's low. But when you start getting into okay. Let's go through.
When I came out to LA, we went and visited a lot of the boutiques.
Yeah.
One of which was the JLC boutique.
Yeah.
I was very excited to see one in person. I'm in love with these watches and fell even more in love when I saw it in person. These are absolutely fantastic. And the stuff that they do with these as far as complications go, the chronographs and the tourbillons and everything else that goes on with these, they are phenomenal timepieces.
But you know what? For me, it's the original. It's the small. It is the stainless steel with a plain back. And that would be the watch for me.
I won't disagree with that. I will not disagree with that at all. I think that throughout the years, they have done a fantastic job and they haven't done anything to ruin this watch whatsoever, which is something that you can't say about a lot of brands.
Right.
If they have a iconic watch, they tend to modernize and update, and some of the essence of what the watch was gets lost.
Right.
But these reversals, I mean, every single iteration is just fantastic.
Right. I'm all about it. Okay. Going to number 8 is
The Nautilus,
I don't
again,
I don't disagree with that.
you love it or hate it,
Uh-huh.
but it definitely deserves a spot. I will say that
You can't deny
for
it.
sure.
You can't deny it.
No.
All right. Next is number 7,
Number 7 is the
Calatrava.
Caltrava. I know you like this one.
I do like that one. I do.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
No, why not?
If you want to call this one of the greatest watches of all time, again, just like what I was saying, I feel like this has kind of gotten diluted by everything that has really tried to play off of this watch. I think there's
Oh,
watches
but
in
see,
this style that are nicer than what this one is.
but that's the point, I think. To me, and the reason that that watch gets onto the list is
That it has
because
spawned so much.
well, because everybody is trying to copy that one. They're trying to recreate that one. And that is if you're looking at a quintessential precious metal sub-second high execution, you really can't beat that watch.
I get where you're coming from.
Proportion wise, balance wise, that one to me just sort of screams elegance. And like in terms of a dress watch, you kind of can't beat it.
It might also have something to do with this is the 32nd Patek that has showed up on this list, and
True.
I'm just tired of looking at them.
True.
That
True.
by the time
I
get
don't
down to
disagree
number
with you.
7, I'm over it.
I don't disagree. Okay, let's go through 6 and 5 real quick. Right?
Yeah.
Paul Newman and go to number 5. Daytona. To me, that's the same watch.
Here's my thoughts. The number 5, the Daytona, the modern quote unquote Daytona, right? They couldn't give these watches away, right? You
Right.
couldn't give them away. I get that it's an iconic chronograph, but you couldn't give them away. It does not deserve a top 5 spot, if even to be on the list. The Newman, it's a watch
Right.
made popular because it was on the wrist of Paul Newman. If it wasn't on the wrist of Paul Newman, would it be as popular as what it really is? I don't know. It's a vintage watch. It would hold a place in history because it's a vintage watch, but would it be as popular without that celebrity provenance?
Is that watch as good as say a Nina Rent? Is it better than a Carrera? Does it beat the El Primero? Because a lot of those the El Primero movements are in Daytonas.
Are in the Daytonas, yeah. I don't think it beats the El Primero. Personally, for me, I would take a Nina Rint over a Paul Newman all day long.
Any day.
All day long. The Paul Newman, I don't think deserves to be on the list of all-time greatest watches. There's a lot of watches made famous because they were worn by celebrities. It is a very sought-after watch. I don't know it's one of the greatest watches of all time, and especially the modern Daytona. Definitely, I really don't think it deserves a spot.
I think the El Primero surpasses that.
Yeah,
I think the Nina Rent surpasses that. I think there's a couple of Carreras that surpass that. All right.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4. This is the tank that we all know and love.
You know, I give that a spot. I find that to be in a similar spot as the Reverso.
Yeah.
It's an iconic watch. But see, this is the thing, like the most important versus most iconic. And I think that there's some crosstalk here. I don't think that their criteria was really well laid out. And that's a problem for me.
I don't think it was either. That's why I say I feel like this was a list of their favorite watches, and less of, because again, is it something that influenced the industry? Is it something that influenced the brand? There's a lot of blurred lines, you know. I agree with you. This is number 4.
Yeah.
Is this a top 5 watch to you? Where do you
Yeah.
feel this should fall?
Yeah.
I think it is.
I think the Reverso, to me, that and the Reverso or might be a tie, just because they occupy the same sort of space. I think that the tank predates it, and it's an incredibly well done execution. I think there's a lot of variations that go with that. I think that the Reverso might be a more important watch, just in terms of launching a sports watch, specifically, rather than the tank is sort of the quintessential dress watch.
Hmm.
But they're definitely top 10.
Okay.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3. What do we got at number 3? And that received 21 votes, by the way.
Ah,
The Submariner. Okay. I will give you that. Yes, this is a top 5 watch.
easily.
I'm not a fan of the Submariner. I'm not a fan of Rolex. When it comes to 50s designed dive watches, I would rather have a 50 Fathoms over a
Really?
Submariner.
Over
Yeah,
a sub?
over a sub.
Sub all day. Sub all day.
But I get and I understand this watch, and I believe it has a spot on there, and I think top 5 it deserves that spot.
I think that watch goes
It's
into
the quintessential dive watch, if we're being honest.
it is the dive watch, and it goes
Yeah.
into a more important space when you start looking at the military applications, when you start looking at the Tudor versions of it as well, which I would qualify definitely in the same space as Rolex. You're paying more for the X, but the Tudors are as good, if not better, in my opinion. And if I were to be looking for a vintage sub style watch, I would be looking at a Tudor.
More bang for your buck, same bang for your buck,
More bang for your buck,
more bang.
because you don't because it's an ETA movement, so it'll be easier to fix, cheaper to fix. Okay. Number 2, you get to talk about this one.
My Grail watch.
There it is. Talk
This
about
is
it.
it. It's an iconic watch. The Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, my Grail watch. I love the story of Gerald Genta. I love. I'm a big fan of a lot of the stuff that he's designed over the years. Um, I do like the controversial story of he did spend some time at Bulova, and I know that it's not true, but I want to believe that it's true, that this was a design that he came up with during his time there, and that's what spawned the Bulova Royal Oak to come out after this came out with AP. And maybe they realized that they passed on a great opportunity. Again,
Maybe,
I know it's not true, and the
maybe,
timelines don't match up.
maybe.
But
Right.
I
But okay.
part
But
of me
now,
wants to hope and believe. But these initially, I didn't like these watches, and over time, I grew to love them. The integration of the case and bracelet is fantastic. The way that the links are done is fantastic. Everything is planed perfectly. The
okay.
combination of the
Here's my
brushing
issue.
and the
Here's my issue.
polishing is fantastic.
I prefer the 5711. I prefer the Nautilus to the Royal Oak.
Do you know?
I do. I do. And I prefer it for all the exact same reasons that you just said. To me, it is a better execution of that design philosophy. I also believe it's a later execution of that design philosophy, so it makes it a little bit more refined. And then you can also get into the IWC Ingenieur, you can get into the Piaget Polo, all of which were Genta designs as well. So I prefer the Nautilus just from a case shape standpoint, and that's me personally. I don't disagree that this is an important watch. Is it more important than the Nautilus? I don't know. To me, they're kind of comparable.
And they are very comparable. I'm surprised you like that with the case shape of that watch.
I don't like the squared circle.
No?
No, and I think that the Nautilus with the handles on the side for the porthole, I think that breaks it up a little bit nicer and a little bit cleaner. And so for me, that just works better. Number one.
Okay, so this is really what sparked so much argument and debate in our group chat.
Speedmaster.
I wholeheartedly agree
I
that this is one
disagree.
of the.
Oh my God, I disagree.
Well, hold on. Let me finish. I wholeheartedly agree that this is one of the greatest watches of all time. The Omega Speedmaster Professional. Absolutely. I don't necessarily agree that it deserves the number one spot. I don't know what I would put as the number one watch, if I'm being honest with you.
I do.
I don't think it would be the Speedmaster. While the Speedmaster is a top 10 watch, I'm not even going to say it's a top 5 watch, it's a top 10, but it absolutely deserves a spot on this list. This is the standard for what a moon watch, a space ready watch is.
Yeah, but you take away the fact that it's a NASA watch, and what is it? It is a non-waterproof chronograph. Is it more distinctive than any of the Universal Geneve? Is it more distinctive than a Carrera?
Absolutely.
No.
Than a
No.
Carrera? Yes. Yes.
No.
Oh, for sure.
No. Carrera's going
For
to be
sure.
easier. Carrera's going to be easier to use. It's 2 registers, not 3. Going to be less complication. I think Carrera is a much better execution in terms of what the watch is.
No.
This now, okay, as a top 10 watch, yeah, okay. Is it better than a Daytona? Is it
For
better
sure.
than El Primero?
I won't go that far.
Okay,
It's
right,
definitely
but
better than
you're putting
Daytona.
into that space. To me, if you're looking at what are the most important watches, the first thing that you're going to be talking about is who has them in a collection. And I know a lot of collectors, and I'm not saying this is sort of to toot my own horn. The fact that I spend time with some high-end collectors through the OC Chrono Group, there are people who won't touch Speedmasters. They won't have them. They don't have them in their collection. They're over it. And some of it has to do with the minefield that is vintage Omega. Some of it has to do with the absolute number of references and the capitalization. More of it has to do with the size. The bigger issue and the bigger reason that shouldn't be number one is how many homage and copies of that are there?
Why does that make it not
if we're
one of the greatest watches of all time?
If we're talking the 50 most important watches, the number of copies of the watch will matter. Who else makes a version of that?
So you're saying because this watch has been copied that it dilutes its position on the list?
Because this watch has not been copied, it dilutes its position on the list, and it should be replaced by a couple other watches.
What are you talking about? I'm lost now.
Nobody really makes a copy of the Speedmaster.
For sure they do.
Yeah, but there aren't as many. Yeah, there are people that make copies of it.
So what are you talking about?
How many copies of the Speedmaster are there? Who makes a copy of the Speedmaster?
Oh my gosh. You can throw a stone at AliExpress and hit a dozen of them.
Right.
And that's just now, on that side.
Stop. Because now throw a stone at AliExpress, and how many date justs or day dates do you hit?
The same amount?
Twice as many.
To get out of here.
Twice as many.
There's no way.
More people make a copy of a date just or a day date than make a copy of the Speedmaster.
I don't know if I agree with that one.
I have 2 words for you.
Don't say it.
Do you know what they are?
Don't say it.
Super Seville.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking.
No, it wasn't.
The design.
So I bring that up. My son has a Benares quartz copy of a day date. I've got a Bulova copy of a day date. I've got a Bulova copy of a date just. There are numerous. Good Lord. Every brand has got a version of one of those. Every brand doesn't have a version of the Speedmaster. So if we're talking about important, the fact that those watches have been copied more makes them more important.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
The Ulysses Nardin Freak. How many
Uh-huh.
copies of that are there? Any?
Probably not.
Can we agree that there's 0 copies of that watch?
Very, very few. Very few. There's probably 1 or 2.
You think there is? Do you think there's a Chinese company that's made a Ulysses Nardin Freak? No.
I'm sure there is, but whatever.
I'm sure there's not. You're just saying that because you know I'm going to prove you wrong. I have a Dolce & Gabbana Navajo watch, right? You ever hear of that watch? Probably not. However, I know for a fact that that watch has been faked. At the height of the Dolce & Gabbana fashion watch popularity, there were fakes of that watch. At least 1, if not 2. So does that make my Dolce & Gabbana that more important than the Ulysses Nardin Freak because it has copies and the Freak doesn't?
Possibly. Possibly. Well, it goes back in, and we've had this.
Joe.
Whoa. We've had this conversation before. And no. Let me finish. It has to do
the people are getting an insight as to what our group chat looks like right now.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It has to do with criteria. Set your criteria and hold yourself to it.
And that's the thing, is this list doesn't have any criteria.
Right. Okay. And so if we want to go into that, let's go into that. Because we also came up with what we think is missing. And I think there are watches that are missing from this list, and there are watches that are just as important to go onto this list, and that were not added. Because if we're talking about having how many perpetual calendars was it?
Countless. I don't know. We scrolled past so many of them. I just happen to have
8 different perpetual calendars.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have your list of watches up on the screen here first. I am going to share those. Let's see. So we're going to talk about your watches first.
Yeah, we'll edit.
First and foremost,
if we're talking about important watches,
the Citizen 0100.
0100, the most accurate.
Please expand.
The most accurate wristwatch to date, without exception. It's impeccably.
How many times have you seen me going for a second pour during the show? I'd need one right now.
Whatever, dude. I finished the bottle, so come on. It is the most accurate wristwatch to date. It holds the record. It is impeccably finished. It is incredibly well done. It is relatively reasonable.
Relatively reasonable as far as what?
Price.
Really?
Compared to a Newman Daytona?
This is an annual accuracy of plus minus 1 second. Plus minus 1 second per year.
Per year.
I'm not poo-pooing this watch in any way. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Absolutely. This is one of the greatest watches ever made. Significant watch, for sure. Okay, the next watch you feel should be on this list is this. Hands down, I will absolutely agree with you. The Universal Geneva Pole Router will go on in history as one of the greatest watches of all time.
And if we're talking greatest watches, most important watches, blah, 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 blah. But here's my issue. And this is significant. If we look at who is the deciders on the list, right? We go back to who was on the list. And we look at the fact that Universal Genève has just been repurchased or resuscitated by Breitling. They are going to be coming out with watches. They've released 3 special edition,
quote unquote released. Yeah,
right.
They came up with 3 watches you can't buy.
Right, exactly. Well, no, you can't. You can buy 2 of them because they're going up for auction. But okay. This watch, from those people, particularly the sellers, this watch should have definitely been on the list because they're going to want to drive the price up. And they've missed an opportunity to do so
For
to
sure.
their peril. All right, you've got next up.
There is one tourbillon that made the list. However, I think it is the wrong tourbillon that made the list. I think the one that should have made the list was the first tourbillon, the 1801 Breguet. More of a pocket watch than a wristwatch. However, this is the tourbillon to pave the way for all future tourbillons after it. And I think this is historically significant and important. And the reason why this watch exists, the reason why a tourbillon exists, is all inside of this watch here.
Okay.
And I think that this deserves to be one of the 50 greatest watches of all time. I mean, it's the father of tourbillons.
That specific, how many versions of that were there? Do you know? Is it
I
a
don't
one
know.
of? Or was it a serial
I
watch?
think this one is a one-off, and then there were a couple other updated, improved versions, but this one in
Okay.
particular, I think, was a one-off.
Okay. All right.
So
I won't argue that.
I believe that one holds a spot. Next
Right.
up,
Okay.
not because it's an Accutron, because this is the watch that changed timekeeping after how long? How long had it? Was it 300 years?
Something like that. Okay, but all right. Why
The
not?
Accutron, the Bulova Accutron, the tuning fork movement. This is the 1960, the original 214 tuning fork movement. This absolutely needs to be on that list of greatest watches of all time. Where it marks its place in history alone is what should afford this watch to be on that list. We talked the Seiko Astron in the Quartz Revolution. Those watches wouldn't exist without this technology. Joe.
I have a question and a comment.
Okay.
And the question is, why don't you have the Hamilton Electric on the list? Hamilton Electric predates the Accutron. Hamilton Electric sets up the idea of quartz.
No,
Yeah,
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. The Hamilton Electric sets up the idea of an electric watch, of an electronic watch. The tuning fork sets up the idea of quartz. The Hamilton Electric was an electronically driven balance wheel. That was a modification of technology that already existed. Okay, this is not. This is entirely new technology altogether.
Okay. I have a follow-up question.
Yes, Joe.
Where is that technology currently? Where can I find it?
It currently exists in every quartz watch.
No, it does not.
Yes, it absolutely does.
No, it does. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The
Explain
tuning
to me
fork, I'm
how.
sorry, the tuning fork resonance was powering an index wheel. The quartz revolution has none of that. The quartz revolution goes past that and does not use that and uses the timing, the oscillation of the quartz crystal precisely, not translating it into anything that's mechanical. Mike?
I have a question. What shape, Joe, is the oscillating quartz crystal? What shape is that?
Well, Mike, it depends on the crystal, because if we're talking about a standard quartz crystal, it is a double fork. However, the Precisionist has a triple fork, and most high accuracy quartz also have triple.
Okay,
So,
well,
Mike,
I'm talking a standard quartz crystal. What shape is that? A double prong? Double prong crystal? A standard, yes, a double prong crystal,
right.
which is a tuning fork, right? Double prong, resonating. Okay, the quartz crystal is derived from the tuning fork. It is a tuning fork shaped, is a two-prong resonating crystal, which would not have existed. Or I posed the question of, if the tuning fork was not invented, how long would it have taken somebody to come up with quartz crystal technology?
You got to back it up. You got to back it up, because the Astron came out in 69. All right. So Astron comes out in 69, which means it was in development before that. The tuning fork, Max Hetzel had that design in 58. So it's a 10-year window. But my point on and why I don't include the tuning fork in the list is that horologically, the tuning fork specifically is a dead end. The variation that it allows and the influence that it has, yes, it's important, but there's a difference between the tuning fork watch and the quartz oscillation watch.
This is a tuning fork that sets the standard for quartz crystal.
No, because nobody else is using a tuning fork. They're using a quartz crystal that may be shaped like a tuning fork, but they aren't using a tuning fork. So it doesn't.
Everybody is using a tuning fork. You just said it. It's a quartz crystal in the shape of a tuning fork. If the tuning fork didn't come along, they would not have figured out that a quartz crystal in that shape would have vibrated at such a high frequency to give the quartz movement its accuracy. How do you not see this?
Moving on.
Oh my gosh, people, do you see what I have to deal with every day? Hold on. I need to take a drink too. My goodness. Moving on, Joe. I love you.
Moving on.
I love you so much. What are your last calls, Joe?
My last calls. Okay, go back to my file.
Oh, okay.
Down at the bottom.
Oh, all right. You
my last call.
Something in on me, didn't you? Let's
last call. Here it is.
Show this one first.
Last call. That.
Yeah.
Dear listeners and viewers, that is a watch box that my lovely wife has made for me. It is a 50 slot watch box. It is derived from a Hot Wheels car display that we purchased from Etsy, I think. And then my lovely wife painstakingly over the last year, over a year, created this.
It's been going on for a while.
It's been going on for a while. Show the next one.
Oop.
That's not it.
Here it comes. This is it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is 50. Well, 49.
49. Yeah.
That is of my 666 watches in a wall hanging display that is impeccably finished and incredibly well done. That is my last call, dear friends and viewers. That is a 1-of-1 50 slot watch box with, if not the most complete, that's probably the most complete 666 collection out there. And it's currently missing 8 watches.
I will agree with that wholeheartedly.
I don't think anybody's got more. I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't know that anybody else does. Thus ends our first episode of 2025.
2025, 150 years of Bulova.
150 years of Bulova, 3 years of the Spring Bar. If you're an OG listener, thank you for sticking with us all these years. If you're new, welcome aboard. You're in for a wild ride. I feel this episode just perfectly displays everything that you can expect from this podcast. Complete and utter disagreement. Polarizing opinions. And me endlessly trying to prove Joe wrong.
Poorly.
That is who we are.
So how do we get in touch?
Well, today, Joe, you and I, we are the Spring Bar Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at the Spring Bar Podcast. You can email us, thespringbarpodcast@gmail.com. On a personal level, I am 120 clicks, all spelled out, one long word, 120 clicks. Joe.
Watch Taylor Youth, EUPH, one word. And that's all. That's all I got.
That's it.
Until next time.
Cheers.